Hello and welcome to today's edition of Extraordinary Outcomes. I'm Shubhanjan Sarkar, your host and founder of PitchLink, the buyer-seller engagement platform. PitchLink makes it easy for your buyers to opt out of an ongoing conversation and also to opt in at will, ensuring they miss nothing with a single click. Managing conversations, opting out of notifications or enter conversations and joining back when they're ready to continue has been a bane for most B2B buying committee members. The buyer could not exit mail chains without potentially missing out on conversations that she may need to know of. She could not get back in at will. Someone somewhere had to start copying her again. With PitchLink, this is history. With all conversations taking place on a single unique link, she will miss nothing when she decides to join back the conversation. Be part of the solution. Make it easy for your buyer to buy. Want to know more? Sign up for a free one-on-one session. Link in the attachments. We continue to bring you the complete interviews that we recorded and aired earlier in the year with experts on the 5% conversion problem in B2B sales. Today, we bring you Bill McCormick. Bill discovered the power of LinkedIn and social selling when he and his wife started their advertising specialty company over 5 years ago. With only a handful of clients, he quickly became a student of social selling, having read Brian's The LinkedIn Sales Playbook and putting her teachings into practice and growing a successful social selling process. Bill, welcome to the Extraordinary Outcomes show and this special segment where we talk about the elephant in the room, which is the 5% conversion problem. But before we get into that, tell us a bit about yourself and what brought you where you are.
Sure. Well, thanks, Shubhanjan. I'm so happy to be here. Glad to be speaking to your audience. So I've been involved in sales going back into the 80s, kind of on and off. My reemergence into sales began in 2013 after a brief break. My wife and I started our own promotional products company, marketing company. And because I had a sales background, guess who became the salesperson for the company? It would be me. And I had a full-time job at the time. So I had to figure out a way that I could prospect and build our company quickly. And very fast, we found that LinkedIn was the place where our buyers were, where our ideal clients were. And I could locate them on LinkedIn, put them into the sales process. And actually, we built our business from the ground up using LinkedIn. And I was able to, in 2.5 short years, leave my full-time job, come full-time working with my wife. It wasn't too soon after that people in my networking circles, anytime we would talk and they'd ask how I was being successful, I would talk about LinkedIn. So they began to ask me to teach them how to use LinkedIn. So I began my own consulting company with LinkedIn, connected with a woman named Bryn Tillman, who is the CEO of Social Sales Link, who I now work with. And she really helped me. She wrote a great book called The LinkedIn Tactical Playbook, I believe. Hopefully she doesn't watch this to see I got the name of the book wrong. But we connected over that. And it wasn't too soon after that, right around 2017, that I had a client in Bermuda. It was a bank that was looking for LinkedIn training. I had no idea how I was going to deliver the training and reached out to her, and we began a partnership. And then she eventually asked me to join her team. And so now I'm the chief sales officer at Social Sales Link. I'm Bryn's training partner, and we do a lot of online stuff together. We do some video recording of some courses together, and and thrilled. So I'm a person who has come kind of up through the ranks from cold calling all the way up to social selling, but have done and have been successful in what I teach. So just really thrilled to be here today, especially to talk about this topic.
Wonderful. This sounds fascinating, and it calls for a separate chat altogether on your journey, and I am sure we'll do it someday. Diving right in, there is this abysmally low single-digit conversion state, right? Mm-hmm. Where do you stand on this one?
Well, I think numbers are numbers, and probably from one industry to the next, they can change. They can maybe be a little higher or be a little lower. I'm sure if a company's putting out, if the average is 5%, then how high can it be? But you're right. It's not as high. It should be in double digits. I'm a business owner. I want my profit margin, I want my conversion rate to be over 50% if it can be. So I agree with you that they're very low rates. I think what we can agree on is that where sales is heading is in a very impersonal way right now, and one that's focused on numbers more than it's focused on people.
That's an
And I,
interesting point. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
yeah, and I think because what we're doing is we're seeing clients as a dollar sign, we're seeing clients as, or prospects even as a dollar sign, rather than seeing them as people. And as my friend Larry Levine from Selling from the Heart says, all business is personal. And especially in this time where we're in right now, where we can't meet face to face, we're always dealing with someone through a screen and through a lens of a camera. We have to realize that we have to connect with them in a way that we've never had to, even been able to connect with them in the past. Before, not in our case, because you're in Bangalore and I'm in Albany, New York, so we're quite a distance away. But in the normal business cycle, we could go sit down and have a cup of coffee together. We could meet, we could shake hands, we could look at each other face to face. That's not happening now. And so we have to figure out ways that we can build the trust. Bob Berg said, at the end of the day, when all things being equal, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. Right? Great quote. Very, very true. So now that I can't meet people face to face, how am I getting to know them? How are they getting to know me so they like me and trust me, so that we can then maybe do some business together, or at least help each other?
Before I ask a follow-up question, I just wanted to throw in one point that it is not only the pandemic why face-to-face is not happening. It's not only the geographical distance, because we are doing a lot of business across the world, all of us. But it's also that the buyer per se has changed. And the buyer is going to go for that coffee much later into the process and not in the beginning. So if your starting point is trying to get a face-to-face meeting, that's not going to happen, period. That's not happening.
I'd agree. And I would just say that process you talked about as being longer, we as salespeople, we as companies, we're not finding out about that they're even in the process till much later.
Yes.
And that's what I believe is Corporate Provisions put out the study. 74% of B2B buyers do business with the sales rep who was the one to provide value and insight, not the one to have the cheapest price. And what we also know is that the buying process is getting really elongated because our buyers can do so much research on their own. So they're looking into things before they're even reaching out to us, or before we're reaching out to them. So that's a great point to bring up.
What brought us here? How did we get here?
Well, I think that this has been 30 years in the making, and I think
Absolutely.
It began in the B2C world back in the 80s when telemarketing became so huge. And these call centers, and basically I should have said it really all comes with technology, right? Because the technology got to the point in the telecommunications industry where call centers could be activated. And now you had auto dialers and people reaching out. And, I can remember when I was in the 80s, right after being married, the phone ringing right at dinner time, and because they knew you were going to be home. And so that translated then into the business world, where the business leaders thought, hey, we can have call centers and they can call on businesses. And so that started. And then and then if you were an inside rep or an outside rep, you had cold calling to do. You had so many dials to do a day. And back when I was in sales, the number was about, for every 100 dials you did, you got about 10 answers. And out of those 10 answers, and you set a meeting, you got one sale. So it was a 1% conversion. And then that stretched into the 2000s when email suddenly became the thing. And so now we went from a synchronous communication, two-way, somebody talking on the phone to someone else. Now we've got this asynchronous way that we can communicate. We can just send our message out. It lands and somebody reads it and they react to it. And so now we can do it in even more. Before we could do maybe thousands of calls a day. We can now, one push of a button, send tens of thousands of emails out. And so, that 5%, where that becomes what the deal is about that is, what is the 100% number that gets the 5% return? Because I think what business leaders started to do is they started looking, okay, so I get a 5% return. So if I send out 500,000 emails, then I get 5,000 responses. I had to look, I'm not good at math, so I had to do this beforehand. So if I send out 500,000, whatever it is, I get 5,000 back. And so what they started to do is just make that 100% number bigger, and that gave them the better return. And so I think that's where we're at right now, and technologies continue. So now you have the whole area of social media and websites, and how do you drive traffic to your website? And oh wow, we have LinkedIn. You know, I heard one of our clients describe LinkedIn as Google for business. You know, you want to find something out, go to LinkedIn. And so that's the space I operate in all the time. And what we saw about 2 years ago, we started seeing people who would connect with us on LinkedIn with no personal note. They would just connect in hopes that we would accept them. And as soon as we accepted them, bam, you got a sales pitch in your inbox on LinkedIn. And then last year, after the pandemic started, not right now, but probably about April to May, what we saw was people shifting. And they started, rather than sending a blank connection request, they sent their pitch right in a connection request. You know, and that was such a switch, and it's turned a lot of people off. And so here's where I think the problem is leading us to. In the 80s, and even in 2000, when we were doing telemarketing, cold calling, and emailing, we may have seen in caller ID the company name. We may have seen somebody's name on an email, but we either hang up the phone or we delete the email and they're gone. Now we've taken this same idea and we brought it into LinkedIn, but Shubhanjan, your picture is on your profile. When that message you send me comes into my inbox and it's a sales pitch, I not only see your name and see your company, I see your picture, and now you're a person. And so now the company that's mass emailing me or calling me all the time, that was a company that was far removed, that wasn't personal, but now it's a picture of a person. And now it's become personal. And I think what the sales leaders of the world need to do, and especially sales reps that are being taught to do this, is that if you're only going to have 5% return, so you sent out 100 messages and you got 5 back that are positive, I wouldn't worry so much about the 5 positive you got back. I'd really worry about the 95 that never responded or blocked you or reported you to LinkedIn or deleted your email, because they see you now. It affects your reputation bad. You know, Mark Hunter says, in today's world, our reputation arrives way before we do, right? Because people can do research on us and they can look us up. And so we had a client on the phone the other day, and we were talking to him, and he said he had been using a company that was doing automated in-mails on LinkedIn for him. And we said, well, how successful? He says, we had one sale. We got one sale from it. And he sells fairly high ticketed training, so that was good. But then I said to him, how many in-mails did they send out? He says, oh, I don't know, thousands. So those are really bad numbers. And so I think for sales leaders, and even for sales reps, they have to start looking at how to fix this is by making our numbers less, but making our quality more. What we say at Social Sales Link is you need to slow down your outreach to speed up your outcome. And the way you do that is making sure when you're reaching out, whatever way you're reaching out, you're doing so with quality. You're doing so with the other person in mind, with the idea of how can I help this person? Not, I've got to sell you, I've got to sell you, I've got to sell you, I've got to pitch you. Shubhanjan, we help companies just like yours. You know, how many times have you gotten an email like that or a LinkedIn message like that from somebody who's from the other side of the world or the other side of the country who you've never known, and they expect immediately for you to say, oh yeah, hey, that's great, especially financial planners. Like, yeah, I'm going to give you my hundreds of thousands of dollars of portfolio. I don't have that. But if I did, you know, just because you reached out to me, I think that's really where the problem is. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I think that's where we're at right now.
Can you unpack for us what would be the right way to reach out? How do you do it right?
Well, so we're, my LinkedIn profile, the first thing it says for my headline is authenticity over automation. And it's not that I don't believe in automation. We use some automation, but it comes to that synchronous and asynchronous communication. Jeb Blunt talks about it in his book, Virtual Selling. Asynchronous is one way. So you can use automation to convey information. So we use automation and email systems to send information, but we're also always providing extreme value. You're never going to get just a pitch from us. You're going to get extreme value that even by reading our emails, you're learning something, right? But then when you're looking to build a relationship, you want a synchronous communication. You want it to go back and forth. You want to have a conversation. Here's the thing. We have to earn the right to have a sales conversation with someone. All right. And one of the ways we do that is we always have to keep in mind the ask offer ratio. All right. Keenan in his book, Gap Selling, talks about this, that there's always an ask offer ratio. If you're asking someone to read an email, you're asking them to look at your LinkedIn profile or read a message you've sent or read a piece of content, we're asking them for their time, which is their most valuable possession. We have to make sure they get something in return that's of equal or lesser or more value than that. And there are typically 3 replies or responses to the ask offer ratio. The first is a bait and switch, and what we say in Social Sales Link is a connection pitch is a bait and switch. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes when you say, "Hey, come to my webinar and you're going to get these 5 reasons of how to do something or 5 ways how to do something." But when you go to the webinar, it's 25 minutes of pitching whatever they're selling and 5 minutes of, "Oh, here are the 5 points." So you always want it. So that's the first response. The second response to the ask offer ratio is, nah, it's neutral. It doesn't really provide me with anything. There might be some information there, but it's nothing I haven't learned before. The third response to the ask offer ratio is where we want to live. We want it to be compelling. We want what we share with them to be compelling so that they kind of get that, when you see a dog that hears a weird sound, they kind of tilt their head funny and they like, I never heard of that before. And there's 5 things whenever we're sharing content that we want to have happen. First, we want to resonate with our audience. We want them, when they're reading it, when they're consuming it, to go, wow, that's me. I can relate to that. The second thing is we want to create curiosity. We want them to have that head tilt moment or that lean in where they're like, hey, wow, I've never heard this before. We want to teach them something new, get them thinking differently. In the end, we want what we call more raised hands. We want them to go, hey, I've never thought of that before. Can you tell me more about it? And the way that we do this is, I said, slowing down your outreach. So what you're doing is first of all, on LinkedIn, you're connecting with purpose. You're just not connecting with anybody and everyone. You're looking at somebody's profile to see, hey, is this someone that I want to have as part of my network? Do they want me to be a part of their network? And if you can't find a reason, then follow them. Look at their content, engage with them on their content, give them a reason to connect with you. So you want to connect with purpose, and you don't want to go to the pitch, but you always want to be a resource. The way we define social selling as Social Sales Link is that social selling is about building relationships, providing real value, and being a resource, and understanding that the sales will come when the time is right. And that's what a lot of salespeople have a problem with, especially sales leaders. They don't want to wait. They think that if they jump right to the gun and if I pitch you right away, that if I do that with 10 people, one might say yes, and then I'm closer to hitting my goal and hitting my numbers for the month. But what we have to do is slow it down, reach out with what Scott Schilling says, high intention but low expectation. All right, low attachment is what he said, but I say is expectation. So when I reach out to you, if you're my ideal client, I'm going to reach out with value in order to build a relationship, and I'm going to have a high intentionality of providing you with value and serving you, and then a low attachment to, oh my God, is he going to buy from me? Is he going to buy from me? Is he going to buy from me? Oh, he didn't buy from me. All right, on to the next one. It's about building the relationship, and it takes longer. Right? It definitely takes longer. However, you see a higher return on the work that you're doing and the outreach that you're doing.
It's very interesting because what you say is hard, and people don't like hard things,
Well,
right?
let me, it's really not hard, okay? So I live in the Northeast in New York, and it's going to warm up this week. It's going to be 60, but yesterday it was 9 degrees when I got up, 9 degrees Fahrenheit when I got up and took my dogs out for their morning walk. And there are people on garbage trucks out working. That's hard to me, right? That's hard. This isn't hard. It's just not easy. See, and the reason is because we've been taught in the sales world that there are plug and play solutions, that all you have to do is set up and segment your list the right way and send these 5 steps of email sequences, and it's going to convert to 50%, and you're going to have much success, and you're going to be able to sit back and because we want it easy. We don't want to do the hard work, the more difficult way of actually building a relationship and establishing a customer for life. And so that's what I'd say is we've kind of fallen in the sales world. We've fallen into this idea that there are some solutions that are out there that all you have to do is put a couple of things in play and it's going to take care of itself. I wish that were true. It's not. Everyone on LinkedIn that's selling lead generation, and we can book appointments for you. And I would encourage everyone to do their due diligence and really look into that and see if it really works. Because yeah, they may set some appointments for you, but how many people are they alienating that could have been your client? I was in pest control 28 years ago. Okay, my youngest daughter was just born and she's 28. I have it on my profile, all right? So this is from like 1997, 1995 to 96, I think it was. I still get people reaching out to me saying, "Hi, Bill, I see you're in pest control. We help companies just like yours." And then I reach out to them and they're like, "Oh, yeah, well, I have some automation set up." And here's the thing. If you're using automation on LinkedIn, you're probably violating LinkedIn's terms of use, and they can shut you down. So that's one that those lead generation companies, they won't tell you about that. But I agree, it's difficult because we have low expectations in the sales world. I think that's the key.
Yeah, and also because most of the sales automation, to my mind, drives the idea of making selling easy. But the fact is, making selling easy does not sell a thing. It can, if you can make buying easy, and all that you said actually makes the buying easy.
Exactly.
Buying easy can end up in a sale, but selling easy, it's completely sales out thinking. It is a very industrial era thought process which we are not able to shake off, where we were mass manufacturing. We just figured out to mass manufacture stuff, and we had to give a sales guy a quota saying you need to sell 100,000 of pieces of this. Just figure out this is your territory, go and sell it to whoever, and if you meet it, you make so much money, right? So we are not able to sort of shake out the structure we had put 50 years back or 60 years back, and our thinking is still like we said, you need a lot more calls for your 5%. So okay, why don't we do robocalling, right?
Right. Oh, and you said it. You said the difference between being seller centric and buyer centric. And I think what's happened is we've developed all this sales training being seller centric, rather than developing the skills necessary to make the buying process buyer centric. And if people are in sales, I would highly recommend they read the book Selling from the Heart by Larry Levine, because he talks about all of the soft skills that we need to really serve our clients. The soft skills like really actually caring and having empathy for them, to really developing relationships, to actively listening and hearing what they're saying, not listening to respond or to react, but listening to be able to serve. And that's really what it comes down to, is we have to make the selling process buyer-centric rather than sales centric. That's really the key, I think, to where we need to head in the next year, 2 years, 3 years. I don't think we can plan past that, because if anything, 2020 taught us anything, is that you can think far ahead, but your plans can change like that.
Very interesting. I want to put in a thought here. Uh, you know how you see children who grow up in an empathy ridden home where the parents are empathetic, parents are, uh, are concerned about people who are not doing as well, concerned about animals and so on. These children grow up to be empathetic, right? So if you want your salespeople to be having empathy for the customer, your sales leadership has to be that. If daddy in the office is saying, I'm going to whip your backside if you don't make this quota because my backside is getting whipped by my boss,
Yep.
it's very, very
Yep.
unlikely that that
Yep.
person is going to be, oh, I really want to understand your problem.
Yeah, it's got to come from the top down. It's got to come from the CEO down through the CSO, down to the regional sales reps, the VPs of sales and marketing, to the sales leaders. And unfortunately, and I can especially speak of the United States, the CEOs are so far removed in many large companies from those people on the ground. All they see, they're beholden to the board, and so they're just looking at outcomes. They're
Yeah.
just looking at dollars and cents, and they're really not seeing it. I think where it really has to come down to are the regional, the heads of the small sales teams that have to look and say, how can I make this better? How can I make this easier? Because if they model that for their team, then everything else will take care of itself. But it takes a lot of bravery to be able to do that in today's world. And I say bravery because it could be their job on the line. I'm in a sales mastermind where some people are using some of these soft skills and they're actually threatened. They're actually made fun of in the office. They're looked down upon. But you know what? They're always at the top of the leaderboard in the month for their sales, because their sales process is buyer centric. It's not seller centric. And so I think you really hit upon something with that I'm gonna borrow that. Thanks.
Of course, anytime. So if you are looking out, I mean, you are specializing in a very particular way of selling, right? So social selling focused on LinkedIn. When you look out and from your background and the the changes that you have seen since the 1980s,
Mm-hmm.
where do you see the rest of the selling process headed?
I don't think we'll get away from automation anytime soon. I think it's here to stay. However, I do think there is going to be a shift away from it, only because so Microsoft bought LinkedIn in 2016. I think it was 2000. So $26 billion, and I always say billion with a B. That's a lot of money that Microsoft sunk into that. Microsoft is going to become, I think, more, and I don't have any inside information on this, is just my guess. Microsoft is going to become more entrenched in the LinkedIn process. So I think, and we all know that Microsoft kind of keeps their stuff close. I think a lot of the automation that is gotten away with now on LinkedIn won't be anymore. I think there are a lot of companies that are putting their ducks all in one basket, so to speak, or the eggs all in one basket. I'm mixing my metaphors here. They put their eggs all in one basket with automation. I think they can see that ripped out of their hands really quickly. So I really think, and I'm part of the selling from the heart community. And what we're trying to do, and I'm going to say that, but what Larry Levine and Daryl Amy from Selling from the Heart are trying to do is create this new way of selling that is more buyer focused and buyer centric. That's where my heart hopes and wishes that we go to. I think it's going to take some time to get there. I think you'll see more automation. I only use Facebook for personal stuff. And usually on my phone or my laptop, but I also look up LinkedIn stuff on both those devices. So on my Facebook news feed, I can't tell you how many companies are now advertising on Facebook for LinkedIn LinkedIn search tactics and automation and setting appointments and lead generation. And so that's only increased, and that's probably increased especially in the last 6 months, because we can't go out and meet people. And so they're looking and saying, okay, LinkedIn's the place. LinkedIn's the water cooler. LinkedIn's what I say is LinkedIn's a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week networking room. And so that's the place where we can go. I think that's going to get worse in the short term. My wish and my hope is that within 3 years, we're back to a more symmetrical conversations, and that's really what we do, is we help companies and we help sales teams have more sales conversations with LinkedIn, not with automation, but by building relationships, providing real value, and being a resource. And so that's my hope. I think we're in for more. I think that number 5% is probably going to go down before it goes up.
Well, that's a wonderful note to end this chat, but I think this is not a topic we can finish off in one session of 30 minutes, and we need to chat more. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I hope you had a good time, and I would love to talk to you more on these and related stuff.
Very good, Shubhanjan. Thank you so much. I had a blast, and I'd be happy to come back again. Thank all your listeners for listening. Tell them to connect with me on LinkedIn, please. Would love to know that they listen to me here. So thanks again.
We are very excited about the upcoming launch of our new community built to bridge the gap between buyers and sellers, Moxo. It is designed for buyers, sellers, and marketers to enable access to curated content, share ideas, and engage in conversations as a community. The space will be invite only, and if you want in, please write to us at moxo@pitch.link. That is MOXO@pitch.link. Time to wrap up for today. You will soon have access to the complete interviews in the Fixing the 5% Conversion Problem in B2B Sales and transcripts in the series. Keep an eye out for the link in the EXO newsletter. And thank you for watching. Until next time, stay well and craft extraordinary outcomes.